What was their plan after getting off the train? They're just going to sit there and wait for somebody to pick them up. I guess coincidentally, somebody picks them up. The arrival to the crater is very Bond-esque, and I like that. It's very classy and polite.
It's Dr.
Right?
It is 100% Dr. No.
Your host invites you both to rest, relax, and join him for drinks at 4.
Tell our host we won't be late.
He'll be delighted if you'll join him for dinner. Shall I say you'll be there?
Tell him I also will be delighted.
Exactly. It's just like Dr. No or any other good bad guy where they treat Bond as an honored guest. Again, Bond movies are always classy like that. That's what makes them Bond movies. Then when they go in for the meteor,
I think we're meant to be impressed.
Bond says, I think we're meant to be impressed. Yeah, exactly. It's bullshit. We, the audience, are meant to be impressed, but the whole meteor scene is BS, and it's only the beginning of the bullshit. Again, trying to justify why this is happening in the first place the whole time.
So many years up there, alone, silent, building momentum until it chose to make its mark on Earth. A huge, unstoppable force.
Admittedly, it's a very good metaphor, but that doesn't mean that I believe it. And again, not giving us a good story, but giving us justification for why they made the movie in the first place, which is not a recipe for anything good.
The Kartenhof, the oldest in human possession.
And speaking of the meteorite, the first time I saw the rhyodite on the toxicology reports, I thought it meant that the Spectre rings were made out of material from the meteorite itself, which obviously would have made the rings really special and unique, but whatever. Blofeld goes on to take credit for every movie that came before, which hardly makes any sense and undermines all those movies, unfortunately.
You came across me so many times, and yet you never saw me. Le Chiffre, green, silver.
All dead.
That's right. A nice pattern developed. You interfered in my world. I destroyed yours.
Again, for example, Silva was cooler when he was just a single guy doing his thing. Instead, retroactively, they're taking ownership for him, which cheapens Skyfall, right? It retroactively f***s with better movies, specifically because it all boils down to them being stepbrothers, which, again, is stupid. Blofeld started an international terrorism syndicate in order to get back at his foster brother. F*** you. Fast forward to the whole turn this off moment. Turn it off! That moment is way too over the top. And again, this kind of shows the sloppiness and unclearness of the script. This whole moment doesn't reveal anything, right? Follow me on this. If Bond had killed Mr. White in cold blood, then Bond wouldn't want Madeline to see that. He'd be like, no, turn this off. Like if Blofeld showing that clip to Madeline was revealing a truth or revealing something that Bond had said earlier to be a lie, then Bond would turn it off. Instead, it's like, why are you freaking out, Bond?
The only thing I could see is that he knows what's going to happen, and I don't know.
Her father's going to commit suicide.
To be human for 5 minutes. It's like, I wouldn't want to see a loved one shoot themselves that I loved.
Yeah,
I get that. But to your point, I do agree. I do feel like it doesn't make, it's just like, or if he had killed him, like, yeah, you would been like, he would really be like,
you would freak out. You would freak out.
Yeah, that would really sever their connection.
That'd be a very Blofeld thing to do, is to sever their connection.
And I do wonder, maybe they reshot that, where that was like originally one thing, and then they went back and reshot it and just kept that scene in as is.
Yes. Then the drill scene. So we just keep upping the ante of dumb. I'm going to drill into your brain, and it's going to mess up all these mental faculties. Oh, never mind. None of them do anything. It's so dumb. It's infinitely worse than the shoulder injury stuff from Skyfall, The World's Not Enough, because like at least those, they stick around for a while and then they evaporate. With this, nothing happens.
He gets this happen, nothing happens. He doesn't.
Nothing happens.
Okay. Our rewrite of the movie, if we keep this scene in, right?
Yeah.
Instead of the whole thing exploding, if it was that, and then as they're trying to escape and they're, like he's having trouble focusing, shooting a gun or like something physically is like really hard for him to do certain things, like great, that's a great wound for him to have. Again, especially if it was like a 2-parter movie and this isn't the first part of the 2-parter that happens or whatever, or 3-parter. But like, it's just kind of like, yeah, right. Nothing happens.
And remember, they had just established that Madeline knows how to operate firearms. So there was an opportunity here for her to do something with that during the escape. But instead, Bond kills everybody as if nothing had just happened.
You know what happens when a cuckoo hatches inside another bird's nest.
It forces the other eggs out.
Yes. Well, this cuckoo made me realize my father's life had to end.
We don't really ever hear exactly why he's so pissed at James. Again, flashbacks would have helped. Flashbacks would have shown some moment
As he was getting
where,
drilled,
as kids.
we see flashbacks.
Oh yeah, sure, that would have been cool.
We see these little moments, almost like a video game thing. We see all these little moments. And you're like,
sure.
Bond with Hans Oppenheimer showing him, like, all right, kid, you know how to do this.
Yeah,
You
and
see him at
meanwhile,
Skyfall
Franz
shooting
is
with,
pissed off and bitter and
we
all
see him
that.
at Skyfall. We see him, like, we see all these moments from the movies. We see Vesper Lent. Like, they could have done something like that.
Yeah, again, seeing exactly why Bond chose the path of good and Blofeld the path of evil. Instead, we're just sitting there and Blofeld's like, you know, he used to ski with my dad. And you're like, dude, no, this is not enough justification for becoming like the most evil guy on the planet. Instead, literally every piece of dialogue from the infamous Blofeld is designed to not tell us an interesting story by developing a character and possibly showing us something where we would sympathize with him, like what we had with Silva. But to justify him being in this film in the first place, which is stupid.
Right.
He says
The daughter of an assassin.
Madeline is the daughter of an assassin, which since when is Mr. White an assassin? He's never killed anybody.
Well, I don't know if that's...
He killed the sheep.
He
but,
does
like,
kill the sheep.
He's not an assassin. He's like number 2, number 3,
well,
number
it's
4,
like,
number 5.
I think it's the equivalent. Okay, just defending the movie very weakly here. I think it's the equivalent of people calling Bond an assassin, but you could also call Bond a spy. But it's
Bond
like
is an assassin, though. Like,
yeah, but like
definitively.
anytime you refer to James Bond, it's like he's supposed to be referred to as a spy. But within universe, and as we've added the license to kill Matra, it's like, yeah, he's an assassin. In the same context, I could see why he's saying he's an assassin. That's all I'm saying.
Anyway, so then she runs up to Bond and she's like, I love you. I would say that's a little too soon to say I love you. Instead, her being affectionate, trying to help him, you know?
Yeah.
But, we're at this point, we're nitpicking. But then, why didn't, again, this is the 4th movie where apparently you have like Mr. Super Smart Blofeld, who even had, allegedly had Silva as an underling. Why wouldn't the incredible genius Blofeld take James Bond's watch, knowing where he comes from, knowing about Q Branch?
Little gadgets from those fools in Q Branch.
Instead, Blofeld does this thing where he like stupidly looks at the watch like, why are you throwing the watch at me? And then it blows up in his face. So it's like, okay, how is this guy the head of the organization? Silva should have killed him a long time ago.
Well, I mean, he should have known. He's got the surveillance. You would think he would have the surveillance of seeing Q Branch, so he would know.
You would think
the watch was the thing.
Yeah. So then we have the worst escape scene in any Bond movie ever, where even though Bond has had his balance and his vision and everything drilled out of his brain, apparently it like helped him. Apparently it turned him into a super soldier where he's able to kill 24 guys, even shooting a guy from like 500 yards away with no problem, at all.
The first probe will play with your sight, your hearing, your balance.
Even though you just had all of that drilled out of your brain. F you. F you, movie. So then to top off this ridiculously contrived and sloppy sequence, Bond shoots a fuel line which in perfect video game fashion proceeds to blow up the entire facility about 1 minute after the watch detonated.
That was easy.